Hi everyone, this is Evelyn, and I woke up and did a little bit of scribing to get a message, and it turned out to something very deep, so I want to share that with you. The first pictures you're seeing are just some of the energies in the clouds right now. It's really intense, and I gave you a close-up of those pictures as well of the clouds. You can really see, like, they look like cards on a table. I just wanted to share that with you. And then the other one looks like a toy house, you know, like a doll house. There's some really cool details in that picture. So I showed you a couple pages of my notes, so maybe it won't be so confusing, because I know it's a lot of imagery as I translate my messages sometimes. So this was this morning. And you see the first picture there with the scribble there across the page where it says heartbeat above it, and some of the other messages. And this is just, it doesn't have to be exactly a letter or a symbol or something, but it's whatever first impressions I get from it, as well as letters and words that I get from it. So the heartbeat was coming up first thing. The energy of like lots of M's, that energy of something that feels good. And nem, men, ner, mer, rem, all these different words that I listed here. And mem, one of the definitions of mem is gene, as well as the symbols for water in Phoenician. And you can see some of the definitions that I wrote down on the page. And I'd circled sky and heaven because there were multiple definitions there with sky and heaven. Pennsylvania German came up, gamma rays. And just going back to the word man from the other words that came up from the writing. So the energy of was coming up is that feel-good energy, which I did my reads on for the 12 signs this month. On what wasn't making you feel good and what was making you feel good. And here is this energy of making you feel good, that that feels good. Something that tastes good. You say And it was really funny because as I was doing this, Teddy was looking at me and I was cracking up. And then ah and oh also came up because one of the symbols that came up this week was in the Sandinese language, was a symbol that looks like a Z that meant you only use the consonant, not the vowel sound next to it. So because that came up and came up, which is a consonant, the vowels were coming up because the vowels are something that comes out of the mouth, and it's more open mouth energy as opposed to the which is closed mouth energy. And there's this masculine and feminine energy. They came up between the two. So the the ah, and the oh of feeling good came up, and then the symbol of water, which of course is just the ripples up and down, which is very similar to the heartbeat. And as I was doing on oh, and Teddy was looking at me because you know, he was listening to what I was saying, and he was making me crack up. So of course I said, "I love you, Teddy," and I was symboling to him that I love you over my heart. So the heartbeat was very much coming up here, and the sea, the ocean, the water, the emotions. And then the words Om, whether it's O-M or A-U-M, and the energy of testing the water to go all in, go back and review, then test again. The murmur came up as well in the heartbeat in this symbolism up there. So as I went on, I drew a picture of a heartbeat to see what more was coming up around the heartbeat. And of course you go online, there's many pictures of the heartbeat, and I'd seen this one that had the word love drawn in between two heartbeats, and it very much looked to me like a skyline, a city skyline. And as I was writing down the different styles of heartbeats, and of course the M is there, which the M comes up big for me all the time, but really this week it's been coming up in all the scribing I've been doing is just M's all over the place. And again, remembering that the heart, the beat of the heart is the valves closing to kind of seal in the chamber, right, as the blood flows in and then the blood pumps out. And so the murmur came up, so I looked up the specific definition for murmur, and it lists humming or muttering, roaring, growling, and rushing, etc. Any low, distinct sound produces noisy or turbulent flow of blood through the heart, a complaint or protest, expression of dissatisfaction or discontent, mumbling under your breath, to boil, bubble, or babble, grumble, crashing, whining, and background noise all came up for murmur. And of course the murmur has to do with a little bit of a leak through the valve in the heart. So the city skyline came up as mimicking the heartbeat. And what is the heartbeat, right? So the standard heart or standard blood pressure is 120/80. And you notice that it's 120 is 12 being backed up by the 0, which is source energy, and then the 8 being backed up by source energy, and 8 is the dance of the 1 and the 2 of the masculine and the feminine. So this was really cool the way this was coming up. So the 120/80, which is your diastolic and systolic blood pressure, reduced to the 12/8 with source support, because both zeros are source support, so we're just eliminating them from the picture. And then the 8, which is the 1 and the 2 dancing together, and if you draw a 2 and then a 1 across, it becomes an 8. So the inflow of the 8 and the dance, and the 1-2 being the separation of the 2. So here we have the 120 being the separation, and the 80 or the 8 being when you're in flow and there is no separation within. The underlying pressure. So the diastolic pressure has to do with your underlying pressure of your blood when there's no heartbeat going on. The underlying tension, so to speak, in your body without any pressure buildup. And then the 120, of course, is the pressure when your heart beats. So the 2 2s coming together, or coming up 2 as the 2 Qs coming together, which becomes then the O with a pyramid type of energy down below. So instead of a Q just one way, you have the tail on both sides, making a pyramid. And also you notice that the 2 2s reflecting each other is also the shape of the heart. So all this stuff was coming up around the heart. And then the city skyline mimicking the heartbeat. And again, the 120/80 where 120 is 1.5 times 80. So it's 1.5 times more than 80. And it also comes up as 2/3 out of 3/3. 120 and 80. So all these percentages were coming up. As the doors are closing, it makes an air pocket, like the banks at the door that keeps coming up, the double doors, the airlock, to prevent backlash. 2 sides of a bridge, controlled by different cities, can keep out the element if needed. So the blood pressure is coming up as the blips, okay? So when you're looking at an EKG, you have the blip of the heartbeat, and then you have a flat line for in between the heartbeats. So there's this energy of the blips being 1/3 the size of the 2/3, and then the 3/3 of the highest peak of the heartbeat, the small reactions to the blow of the big heartbeat, and then the energy of 50% more needed above ground. So in order to build something very stable, the 8 needs to be below ground. So 2/3 below ground to the 3/3 or the whole above ground. So below ground is reflecting the resting pressure, the flow or the dance of the 8, supported by human embodiment of source, that's 0. And above ground represents the 12 or the 120, where the pressure is really on to project and expand. Remember, the 1 and the 2 of the 12 is the masculine and the feminine and the wisdom, whereas the 8 is the strong dance, because you're together. There is no separation. So above ground, where the pressure is really on to project and expand, below is the backpedaling to gain momentum to build up. Whatever you build should have 2/3 foundation. And it was bringing up that energy behind a deck, like if you have the 3 feet posts underneath the deck, that it's completely stable. If above the ground, that the deck is no more than 4.5 feet high for ideal balance. resting in body or earth, it needs to fall back in order to propel forward, just like a retrograde or backpedaling on a bike to gain momentum to go forward again. And then as you peak out, you then fall deeper than ever before. So whether resting in body or the earth, you need to fall back to propel forward into that peak energy and then fall even deeper than ever before. And it's relating to me as in my stretches in the morning. So when I stretch in the morning, so for example, if you bend over standing up, and then usually I'll stretch to one side a little bit, and as I come back to center, I'm now automatically lower than I was before. So it's kind of that energy of allowing yourself to pull back, and then you go forward even more so. And there's this energy of 40, 40, 40 with the 80 and 120. So 8, as I said, also equals the 2 and the 1 together. It still becomes an 8, the 1-2 dance, the foundation that flows naturally. So 1 and 2 can't experiment on top in separation. So it's that underground energy of the underground flow of the dance, or in other words, being under the radar. So when you're underground, no one can really see what's going on, just like no one can see the twins' connection that they have in the etheric realms. And above ground is the actual 3D separation, so to speak, where both states are supported by source. Together, they equal 1.5. The 120 over 80 is 1.5. And if you write it in another way, it's 1 over 1 for the one and 1 over 2 for the other. And of course, 1/2 is less than 1 over 1, or to be 1 is greater than to be half, or in duality apart. So if you chill out on top, or in other words, the systolic pressure of 120, if you chill out on top, you become closer to 1. If you try to raise the underlying pressure instead to 120, which is obviously not good for the human body, as in partying too much or the artificial high life, this results in a heart attack. The heart feels attacked and then fights back, ending in surrender or giving up. It was all too much for them. It's by lowering your heart rate that you get more beatings out of it. So of course you know that rate is frequency. So if the number of blips of the heartbeat, like on an EKG, per minute goes down, the frequency within the blip can then increase and go up. So a higher frequency within the blip, but less of them. And then it becomes a sharper image. So then the blip becomes really sharp and close together in a high vibration, but there's longer spaces between them because you don't need as many of them. So working out then brings your heart rate to high ranges, strengthening the muscle. So at rest, it comes down even lower, the heart rate, relaxed at even 30 beats per minute for some people who are very meditative and relaxed. They're so relaxed. So meditation also slows your heart rate as well as holding your breath, with deep breathing getting to all of your cells. The sharper your blip or your heartbeat, the less of them you need for your body to feel loved and fully nourished by blood. The bodybuilder must continue to sustain, working very hard every day. But if they instead just play doing what they love, which may change over time, they can always sustain a healthy muscle mass in a strong core. So natural stress, no more than 50% above baseline in a relaxed state, not from fear, but from an inspired place, peaking at that eureka moment, the moment before, 1. So the moment before is 0 point, the source point of connection before leaping back into 3, and so on. And so on. So the and comes up, which is the space between. And remember, and, A and D, is the DNA and the DAN of Dan. And the D and M are the same letter, because remember, M used to be a symbol of 2 parentheses with a 1 in the middle, was M. And then they shortened it to 1 and just the opposite parenthesis, which became the letter D. So D and A is just that shortcut of writing M as D, which is not applicable with the NA, and the M is 1 and 1 with a V in the middle, which is co-creation. So the 1V1 is the same as the 2 parentheses with the 1 in the middle, and the 1 reverse C, which is the D, is only one side of it. So DNA is not applicable unless activated by the other side, the AND, A-N-D, the space between, the black, the dark, the empty space that DNA reflects, and Dan sits in the middle. So then we have DNA on one side and on the other, and then Dan is in the middle, which you wouldn't think, because you would think that AND should be in the middle, but not here, because DNA is coming up as the polarity of the AND, which is the everything, right, the black space that they don't know anything about, the feminine energy, and then the Dan comes up as in the middle, where one human creating, which is the D, right, because the M is co-creation, and if there's only half of it, the middle and the one side, that's only one human creating along with Christ, the N, which is my symbol for Christ, and then the A is the blast off to source consciousness in the middle. So you see, D and N are actually the same, as N equals M, and you'd think it's 3/4, but the M doesn't always have a full line down and up in the middle. It's usually halfway down, so that's usually 1/3. So the N is actually equal to M as 2/3 of the M, because M is written as D here. So the N and the D are equal, and since the D equals M, then the N equals M, and the N for me is the Christ consciousness in the M of the feminine, which is the mother or Mary. So the M is the co-creation of the 1 and the 1 and the V, as the D equals the 1V, because they're really the same, it's just the C positioned differently. It's just a different state of mind. So the 1 in the backwards C, or the IV or IU, plus the N, where N is just one upside down V and one right side up V coming together, but they share one side and have no base or roof. 2 ones reaching out equally from 2 sides of the same coin to a line in the middle, as only source can be the M as the original co-creation of the 4 plus 1, or the 4 and 6 at the same time. So the 4 and 6 are coming up from the M because it's 1, 1, and V. So 1V is 4 and V1 is 6. Or it could be 1V, which is 4, plus 1, which is 5 in the middle. So as original co-creation is 4 plus 1. And remember, 4 is the lambda leap from the Christ to the Father plus 1, or the 4 and the 6 at the same time, which is the same thing as the 5 in the middle. So the lambda leap and the spiraling heart of the 4 and the 6, spiraling back a bit to leap to Da, right? The lambda leap. So to leap to Dad, but who do you think threw you there? It's the M of the mother, as is Mom, as the D is short for M. Source and Divine Feminine without the Christed Son needs another 1 to be the M and co-create. And don't even start with the letter B, which is actually 13, the leap of the 1 and the 3, or 2, 1, 3, which remember 2 is also Q when you write it fast, so you also have the Q 1 of the leap and then 3, which takes the Q, which is the egg and the sperm, the leap of the 1, and then the 3 is the S, but turned backwards to become a 3. So the S is the Sophia, or the sine wave, the salt of the earth, but it's turned back on itself. 2, 3 from S, which is 2 parentheses, just one on top of the other. So for creation of the human soul to happen, the forward C must get out of the way for a second, Or in other words, the masculine, Christed energy, needs to get out of the way for a second, the number 2, for the 3 reversed C's, or the feminine energy times 3, plus the 2 leaps now, because there's now 2 ones in the leap of 1 to 3, because the Q has a 1 in it, which is another leap in addition to the 1, 3 of the B. So we now have 3 backward C's and 2 1s, which are leaps. So 3 anti-C's, or anti the C's. Antithesis is anti the C's. So 3 backward C's is the leap to and fro. The anti the C's to leap the number 2 and fro, which fro is the capital F of digamma, and RO, which is a row. So to and fro is the Q and digamma row, the 2 rays on the whispering canoe rowing simultaneously for liftoff levitation. The levitation, so levitation is levita, and then tyon, the tiger-lion. The tiger-lion connection. So levitation is the Vita tyon, where Vita is a CV, or hagiography, a biography of a saint, to know, pondweed, debate, to see, check, life, waste, a way of life, real life, not fiction, mankind, the living, finished, complete, dead, but accomplished, to prove and accuse, as well as war, and to call. Those are all definitions for Vita. And here we have levitation, which is the Vita tyon, or the tiger-lion connection of the masculine and feminine. So at 144, as we hear the call, the 11 of alignment, truth and balance of justice, and the 44 of Hercules and her harvest. So the 3 anti-C's, or antithesis, to leap as the Q and row in 2 directions in liftoff of not the Vita Loco, or the train, but the Vita tyon, the tiger-lioness, the life with source on, the top dog connection. So the Vita Loco is life in training, but the La Vita tyon, or levitation, life with the light on, the piggyback totem, the tot of M, or tote of M, the shadow pack that's carried everywhere you go, accepting all parts of yourself, including your shadow, me and my shadow, which is just unseen or not fully seen, the shadow. So unseeing, the letter C-in, or anti-reverse C. So the Christ is the C, and the Antichrist is the backward C, or your Christed aspect and your human aspect that struggles to believe. So the parentheses, the C and the backward C, or the parenthesis, or C's, the parent of the parentheses, or sisters, or the chakra or shock ray system. For each S equals both C's, the forward C and the backward C, the pairing of a divine masculine and divine feminine, both dancing in their masculine and feminine selves. The M and the F of the co-creation of the mother and the digamma rays of the father, the mother and the father of co-creation and digamma rays. The 3 anti-C's, or antithesis, and just imagine the 3 C's backwards is like waves going out, and 2 gamma rays leaping in opposite directions at the same time. With divine feminine, though, repercussions, because there's these feminine waves going out now, making waves, sine waves, synchronistic waves, and more divine feminine waves than masculine to equalize the imbalance that's been going on for so long. So anti the C's, the antithesis. The opposite is the suffering in silence, or the aunt, the sister. Remember, ant is A-U-N-T, which is gold and explosive, to get that gold ray or aura going. Ah, oh, mmm. And there is your Om, whether spelled A-U-M or O-M, which is home, which is, oh, me. So when I finished this little message here for you guys, I went back to the drawing I'd seen the night before. I did a quick sketch, and it brought up the letter S, but then with a tail of another C that was facing downward. And so, and the number 8 came up upright and on its side, but not with perfect sides, like not with 2 zeros. They were just more oblong, out of shape circles. They didn't have to be equal here. And so when you turn this S, if you take an S and you add a C facing downward to the end of the S, it literally becomes 2 eyebrows and a nose if you turn it upright. And then the gnat landed on my notebook, which always means unforgettable because Nat King Cole comes up there, and that was at 12:07. So 2 S's back to back, each sharing a half by a nose, who back all the way into 8 formation, sharing 8/12. Okay? And not sharing 4/12 or 1/3 alone. So we started off this message with 120/80, and we're finishing the message with 8/12. And this was at 12:12 that I ended. So then I have my message of the day read that I pulled after this for you, that I started at 12:12. And it was just the energy deck, the Lenormand Kipper mixed decks, 2 decks put together, the Wild Unknown Animal Guidebook deck, and then the half deck, which is just characters from my Rider-Waite. So I pulled them from 12 to 12:12 to 12:18 today, and then started at 12:21. And there were 1 and 1 at the end of the first 2 decks, and then 2 and 2 at the end of the second 2 decks, because I always pull cards at the end to count for numerology. So we have 1122 here, which I didn't look up in Gematria, which I actually could do that right now real quick to see if anything comes up with that. Let's see what that one is. I'm sure I must have looked that one up before, but let's see what comes up. Okay, so if I put 1122 in Gematria, the first entry is shelves are cleared. And someone had brought that up too, that February is a big clearing out month, which it is, right? Because we come into spring cleaning. So the first entry is shelves are cleared, and then 44 billion. Wow. And then Kyle Rittenhouse, spelled K-Y-L-E. And then that's interesting too, right? Because the Rittenhouse Hotel is a big Philadelphia hotel. And then 1113 comes up. And then Vicky, Snowflake, and Yahweh, V-E-H. And then Rapture comes in the morning. So that's what comes up for 1122. But also 1122 is Justice and the Fool. So the Justice of the Fool with an open heart, taking a leap of faith. The alignment of the 2s, since we have 11 and 2, and 1 and 1 are the same either way, but 2 and 2 reflected is the heart symbol, which we just brought up regarding the heartbeat that we just went through. But also if you put the 1s and 1s around the heart, it's a heart in a box, which brought up the jar of hearts. 2 supports in scroll work also came up as, like, do you know the shelves your kids make in workshop with the scroll work metal underneath the wood board? Well, that comes up with the heart in the box as well. The kids work, the masculine and feminine aligned. So at 1224, the underlying energy is the 35 of Archangel Michael and the first chakra, the 25 of high honors, the star, and the King of Cups. The wounded warrior, the Knight of Wands were coming up side by side, which could be the same person, or they could be 2 separate people. but it really was coming up as the same person. The Wounded Warrior, Knight of Wands, superficial, and then the King of Cups of unconditional love coming up after that. And really the star could have been the King of Cups, right? So we have the Wounded Warrior, Knight of Wands, and then the superficial star as the King of Cups. So at the root, the warrior is with high honors, never giving up, but yet surrendering at the same time. So that's the key there, right? Because everything is always at the same time. The two polarities have to collapse to the middle. So the Wounded Warrior never gives up, but never gives up in surrendering, because you need to surrender to all that is to actually be able to follow through with everything, right? Because you can't sustain like the 9 and 10 of Wands forever, because it will kill you. It's too much. So you never give up, surrendering, which then collapses both to the middle. The Decorated Soldier, unafraid to get to the root of the problem, but yet not sit in it at the same time. The 9 of Wands being honored before it gets to the 10, which is the next, which is then the sacral going from the root. So at 1234, which is the Hanging Man and the 8 of Wands, and 1, 2, 3, 4 shut the door, the underlying energy of the 30 of the Guard in the Gate, the 7 of Community, 13 of Financial Constraints, and the 50 of Angel of Strength, with 38, the 4th chakra Archangel Raphael in the heart, which is also the Queen of Cups, and then that 35 of the Wounded Warrior and Archangel Michael on top with the root chakra. So home with anxiety about going out to the community, or shy girl feeling insecure around the beauties dressed to the hilt, who are driven and confident, not like her, but they're empty inside, or spent, or with financial constraints that you don't see because they're wearing everything they spent. And the numbers here were 37 and 13, which is the energy of Om, the key, and the capital letter B. So Om, or home, is the key to be. And the 10 of Cups being strong with a happy family, as opposed to driven to destitution or even death if you work yourself to death. So Angel of Strength and Raphael and Mike, and the 10 of Cups and the Queen of Cups with their wings down, but the Wounded Warrior, Mike, with their wings up. And there's gold, green, and red here, very much akin to Christmas, and Cancer, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. And there was this energy here, like I always talk about Thanksgiving every day. Here it was coming up as gift giving or Christmas every day with Cancer, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. Which is, Cancer is a cardinal sign, Scorpio is a fixed sign, and Sagittarius is mutable. So it was very well balanced there with the gold, green, and red, Cancer, Scorpio, and Sag. So at 1242 is the Hanging Man and the 2 of Cups. Where the 36 here is the 2nd chakra of Ariel with an aerial view, with Atlas with an antenna, carrying the world, but with connections. The 21 of the world, as Atlas is carrying the world, has a strategy here, a compass, and a plan or script. And the Wounded Warrior with Atlas and the world at their fingertips, writing, journaling, or scroll work, perhaps. With Michael and Ariel, the root and the sacral, rowing overtime and sack rail, or say crawl, because you're done training, as you noticed that came up before, and you're ready to fly, and to teach others to crawl before they walk and before they run, that it's important to have your foundation. There's an important foundation here in the door to spirit. The 32 of the journey, of the jour-ni, or jour, or the day in French, and then the N-E-Y of the nay, the horse. The day of the horse. And I always talk about Mr. Ed being God. So this is the energy of purifying, opening the doors and windows to purify, let the air in, and spring cleaning coming up big time in this month. And then one card at 1251 hanging out with the King of Swords, with the number 2 card, which is the journey card. So the journey came up twice in a row, one as the journey number and then one as the journey word. 32 with the door to spirit, and then 2 with the journey. First the journey to spirit, open doors and window, and then the journey across the bridge. So remember to make your preparations. The foundations are coming up here. Whether the foundation is building something before you build something on top, or cleaning out your house before you go out to build something new. So 1253 is the Hanging Man and the Knight of Swords, the underlying energy of the 17, which is a gift, and 11 of the sudden wealth, of Christmas each day, and the 18 of the child, and the 13 of another child as the Page of Swords, which could be a message. The 5 of the mature man, of the world or atlas, and the 32 of the journey of despair or of the pair. And the 7 of the Queen of Wands snake, or the toxic bite in the Garden of Eden, and the 14 of the message of concern, or one that bites or stings or requires patience, or literally hospitalized patience, and the 7 of a message coming back in return for the first message of concern, diffusing the concern, breaking the seal or test results as the 24 Queen of Wands thief. And notice the numbers in the cards came up here as 714, which also has 24 as the Queen of Wands on it. And then 7 and 24 came up right after that. So we have the 7 of the Chariot, and then the 14 and 24, which can represent the wounded warrior as the Queen of Wands. And then the Chariot came up again with the 24 of the Queen of Wands, with the 39 Knight of Cups and their community. And the 41 of the Ace of Cups with well wishes and or diving deep, or scraping the barrel, or the community with well water issues or health issues, or the dance of life and death. And of course, the movie came up with Julia Roberts. What's it called? I can't think of her name, but I think you know what movie I'm talking about. So there's this polarity that comes up here between the dance of life and death, the doctor and patient, Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, the sovereign and the dependent, the IV and the tomb, the embalming, and then bombed by M. The community sending best wishes to one hospitalized or official person, perhaps an official person with open heart surgery, or opening their heart to those in need. The 5 of the family tree, or opening of a public garden, or just a ribbon ceremony perhaps, or the fool free to dream, choose, to see synchronicities, or a military funeral and a salute. With Leo, Aries, and Sag here, so lots of fire going on, and the Tree of Life, with freedom, change, expansion, the Hierophant or Taurus, and a commitment to family, or one's commitment being honored here, or canonized, made official, or declared a saint, which came up already at 106. So the leap to lovers, or love, family, and community, or the divine masculine, the magician, with space between the lovers or the family. And then at 107, 7 being the Chariot, is the dream gift of sudden wealth, of triple sevens, kind of like the triple C's, and the 11 on top. Oh, that's so funny. And I just rhymed again. So the 777's coming up as the CCC, the backward CCC, the anti-C's, and the 2 11s of the 2 leaps that came up with the 3 C's. So the dream gift of sudden wealth with the 11 and triple sevens, or hitting the jackpot, with kids and messages, with Aquarius, Libra, Cancer, and Scorpio here, or gifted children or pets at 107. I just had heard a bird noise outside, and it sounded like Jurassic Park. Or a mature man here in despair over the world or pet, or the pair, or toxic Queen of Wands with messages, or Cancer, or test results, or a message that was stolen, or the seal that was broken, or Cancer returned, or there's 2 Cancer people here, and 2 Queen of Wands, or don't know how to tell a patient their test results without appearing to be a thief. So someone may, this could be someone who wasn't allowed to see the results, giving the results to them. And again, there's that confidentiality thing of not, you're not supposed to go into other people's records, even if you have access to the system as a hospital worker. Or the Queen of Wands, Sagittarius, or patient with a message of concern. And then I was getting, I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me. And then easy come, easy go. There's a thief in the community. Or are there 2 here? The Queen of Wands and the Knight of Cups, Sagittarius and Cancer, or boy and mother or older sister, sucking up to officials When sick, to honor them. But what does this gift mean? So it's like people bringing gifts to an unwell official, right? Which could constitute a bribe of some sort. Or is it just a gift from their heart, or do they expect something in return? And these could be literally people who befriend rich people so that they can scam them or marry them and take them for their money. There's literally this couple that keeps coming up over and over again, and it can be a couple and a child who work together, or it can just be one. So there at 116 is the masculine or magician, and the 16 of the tower, with the 34 and 20, which is the energetic exchange of the 8 of wands or hours of love, and the 20 of the judgment card. An energetic exchange at the house or busy job at home, hours of love and a wake-up call, or Betsy Ross's house, now gated, or the Knight of Wands bombing a house, which is the root issue here. Sagittarius wounded warrior getting revenge, or hand-to-hand combat, or throwing things at them or their house, or a declaration of independence. And so I looked up news since the Declaration of Independence and Betsy Ross's house were both coming up to see if there was any news about Philadelphia and that kind of stuff. And so the only things I found were WKBN.com in the news, which that was a $25 million gift to Penn and CHOP that establishes a center for epilepsy and neurodevelopmental disorders. The gift was in honor of TV executive Daniel B. Burke, whose son served on the board at CHOP. And then the research grant is a focus for certain genes, the STXBP1 and SYNGAP1 genes. And also what came up in the news was the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, Union League here in Philadelphia, honored him, sparked outrage and protests here in Philadelphia. Obviously, they didn't feel that he deserved this gold medal, because this gold medal was first bestowed on Abraham Lincoln in 1863, and that was from 6abc.com. So the root of honoring and intention of any energetic exchange, and the judgment of the house of an official and community of wise birds clearing the air, that each must come to the center, but each in their own way, a wake-up call to the wisdom of the feminine and the labyrinth of coming together in joy at the center. The 38 of the Queen of Cups and the 3 of the Empress, the 27 of the risky letter, and the 37 of the King of Cups in a time crunch, perhaps nesting the dream home. This energy of the Queen of Cups toiling and laboring, and the Empress and marriage there. But it could be nesting the dream home with the Queen of Cups. So it could be two women or a mother and daughter, a loving, mature woman with sudden thoughts of her, perhaps from a son who remembers to call home, or a group home that's honored, or a community of the Queen of Cups working hard on vows to the King of Cups, or reviewing or renewing of vows, honoring the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups, inspired by or to a risky speech, or the Queen of Cups and Mother or Taurus inspired to write to the King of Cups, who's busy all the time, or Mother and 2 loving grown kids inspired to take a risk for their dreams, or the Queen of Cups and Mother delivery of test results to the King of Cups, deciding to nest with mature woman, or Mother as man with sudden thoughts of a woman, with Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Gemini, or loving family and thoughts of them here. So at 142, with the masculine or magician and the 2 of Cups, as we get to the eagles, of course, again. So as the elk heats up, the otter is curious, the mouse hides, and the wolf is stunned or dazed and confused as to why them. The eagle dives in, the fox is watching, the nightingale sings, as the cheetah is ready to pounce or jump in, but just skimming the surface or skipping stones. Dancing with wolves, the eagles fox night with chiefs, who both are starting 14 games to 3, the angel and the empress, or the angle to impress, starfish. The path of saints are fish. The wounded warrior honoring star, King of Cups. From root to crown, getting a gold star, the wounded warrior and JC, B, or carpenter, who's nervous about the whale needing a lifeline to clear the dark away. The wounded warrior, Atlas World, honors occupation at or of the house with group of birds, or clearing the house and cutting the bushes, perfectly manicured, or this is a group helping out elders or an old woman to take care of her yard. So there's two cards here with the gazelle and the swans, graceful and grateful, or mother and daughter reflecting each other, the hawk clearing the air, with the raccoon who's depressed, or is this the masked man, and hearing back from the hummingbird who heard it through the grapevine and speaking for them, the raccoon. The peacock with the blue camel, awakening the collective with truth of transformation and fleeting moments of inspiration or brilliance and or epiphanies or lighting up. At 2:01 is the feminine and the masculine with space between. And the tiger who's head on and the lion who's calm. So literally at 2:01, as we have the masculine and the feminine, the tiger lion comes up here as the tiger and the lion right next to each other. So the tiger is head on here, looking straight on at you, and the lion is calm, not even looking on the ground, with awakening collective. So before we had the others with the collective top down, and here the tiger and the lion are with the collective on the ground with them, the horizontal connection. So we have the vertical and horizontal pillars in place as the dragon's eye appears with the truth of the solar plexus, of the quantum entanglement or intention, speaking from the gut or guttering sounds. Big brother watching, that tiger's eye, dragon close up, as anyone knows if they've ever looked at themselves very close up in the mirror. The tiger is right, the dragon's eye is left. The lion's mane is covering both. So at 2:05, which both reflect each other in squared print, the 2 and the 5 with space between, which is also the High Priestess and the Hierophant. The underlying energy here is the Queen of Wands and the Knight of Pentacles, making an offer to the 6 of Cups, innocent children or soulmates, neighbors or world, or Pisces or Divine Feminine and the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Wands, or the Queen of Wands and the Knight of Pentacles are the best of friends or neighbors with the Queen of Pentacles and King of Wands, or the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands split, and each are with a child coming together for the kids or pets to visit with each other. With the dark night comes in inspired to make magic with the Sovereign 9 of Pentacles in a partnership with Judge and King of Cups Cancer, or partnering up as a Libra and Cancer in unconditional love, or Justice of Ascension to the King of Cups or unconditional love, or a practical masculine Queen of Wands and a practical feminine King of Wands come full circle as the 6 of Cups soulmates, as the death of winter and the spring seed planted to manifest big with DNA or and bird. Magic and independent, magician and assistant, or one with tools and the other with support, Scorpio, Gemini, Virgo, with Libra and Cancer, and the Page of Wands and the King of Cups right there. So at 2:16 is the Feminine and the Tower. And the first card out here is the Page of Pentacles and High Priestess with Michael and Jesus, who extend an invitation to the High Priestess, or student of silence, or meditation, or psychic abilities, or multiple religions, or the King of Cups invite to Pisces or Virgo for the Queen of Swords to speak about coming out of hibernation or of wintertime, as lots of birds sing. At 2:19, the Divine Feminine and the Sun, and the 9 of Cups, as the Queen of Swords is speaking to or about the 9 of Cups and self-satisfaction, getting your wish, with the Knight of Swords, and their deliverance, their delivery or messages, coming in quick, or instant messaging, I am. The Queen of Cups is heart-focused to cut to the chase, stepping up to the plate. Perhaps the King of Cups offered an opportunity to the High Priestess to speak for them or on their behalf. Return messages, or making the King of Cups very happy, or divvying the messages up to return together, so they divide and conquer to get them done. With the Page of Cups and the Knight of Cups, with the King of Swords offering love to twin lover, Empress, with Devil or Capricorn waving and unable to sleep or stressed out with the Emperor present. There's two families here, the King of Cups, Queen of Cups, Knight of Cups, and Page of Cups, with the King of Swords, Queen of Swords, Knight of Swords, and Page of Swords. And the Queen of Swords is gathering forces to help out the King of Cups. Or an announcement went out by the Queen of Swords, and the King of Cups and King of Swords need help with the responses, or information that require heartfelt processing when they come in. So at 229, the Feminine and the Three of Wands are being present in the moment, the twins with abundant response, or Gemini Empress or Mother, who is tempting them, or waving hello, or it could be goodbye, suffering in silence, or Sister with the Emperor. Stressed out or suffering in silence in a codependency here, or Gemini, Taurus, and Capricorn, Aries, wanting to take over as the Emperor and Empress to control the other two families. As the Emperor is annoyed by the King of Swords and their refusal to bend or be swayed, and the King of Pentacles now is here as Capricorn, stuck between the Empress and Emperor, stressed out, getting Hermit's advice, but the Wounded Warrior, Knight of Wands, is skeptical, but ultimately is freed by it. Or the Wounded Warrior or Sagittarius is getting the Hermit to investigate the King of Pentacles. Or the King of Pentacles is Virgo or Capricorn with Guard Dog or Saggy and Aries, who are supposed to be on guard, but they're goofing around in the background. So two fire signs, perhaps parents or Emperor and Empress, could also be trying to set up their kids to marry or matchmaking, or these could also be their plays to control companies through family pairing, so matching their kids so that they'd have more power in the company. And this could also be, since there are two families in the Emperor and Empress, it could be, the grandparents still trying to dictate to their two families who are grown children with their own kids on how to run their lives. But the King of Swords isn't having it, that's for sure. So that was coming up here in the message here. Yes. So there you have it. I'll be in touch with you guys soon. Have an amazing day, guys. Rise and be loved. Bye.